It's Valentine!
Yeah. Maybe you can just introduce yourself. I'm Keith Malta. This is my friend Seth Risenmay. Yeah, you want to tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm Seth. I don't know. Professionally, right now, I'm a presidential diamond in doTERRA, which is just it's just a rank in doTERRA. Basically, it's means that you've built a pretty large team. Prior to that, I owned a number of different companies, and when I got my start doing door to door, when I was frankly, just right off of my mission, my cousin went and asked me. He recruited me like 3 days after I got home.
Okay.
He's like, "You should come out and sell pest control with me." And I was like, "All right." And I had no idea. I grew up on a small farm down in Washington State. All I'd ever really done was just farm labor type of a thing. And then I served a mission when I came home. He's like, "Yeah, last summer I made 20,000." That to me, that blew my mind. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So then I went out with him, and that's when I got my start doing door to door. And I did that all through college.
I'm just put this here because it'll probably pick it up a little bit nicer. So those first couple of years, were you like a top producer right away, getting in the door to door, or did it take you a little bit to get your footing?
Well, I was the number one sales guy my first summer doing it in the company I was in, but that was just because everybody sucked.
Okay.
So I was the cream of the crap, I didn't really know much. I wouldn't say I was a great salesperson, but I worked really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's half of the game. Is just if you can actually just stay on the doors. And then I think I made like 25,000.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. Again, this is a while. I'm kind of old, right? So nowadays this is just chump change. But I didn't know. No one taught me how to sell, really. They just said, "This is the offer we're making. Go sell it."
Mm-hmm.
All of my sales tactics were all based on price.
Mm.
It's like, "Hey, this is how much we cost." And again, I grew up poor, so I thought that everybody's buying decision would be based on money.
Yeah.
And so I was always like talking price constantly.
Mm.
And then I ran into some other guys that were also selling pest control, and I was asking them, and they said, "Yeah, we never talk about price." And I was like, "What?" And so then I got into personal development. That's when I just started reading books, reading sales books, listening to, audios constantly. I just basically turned my vehicle into a university on wheels. That's what every time I was driving somewhere, I was learning.
Yeah.
And that's when I started making a massive change.
Interesting. What were some of those beginning personal growth teachers? Who were your mentors, you would say, in that space?
So everyone told me to read Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone said, "You got to read that."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I read it. I hated it the first time.
Okay.
But everyone I knew that was successful swore by that. So I just made it a habit to read that book every year.
Mm.
And eventually I grew to really love and admire the book, understand what it was trying to say, how to win friends and influence people. So I'd say that those were
the two,
kind of your
bread and butter.
Yeah. Bread and butter of business, sales, relationships, anything that has to do with that type of thing. Brian Tracy had a 6 CD series back when we used CDs called The Psychology of Selling. And I listened to that thing 100 times. Until I couldn't listen to him anymore. I had a motivational tape by Les Brown. And it was actually an Amway tape that someone gave me.
Okay.
But it was so inspiring. I just listened to it and I'd just be like, "Oh my gosh, this guy has just had a way to move me."
Yeah.
And so I listened to that a lot just to kind of understand his thinking and stuff. And then but I can't even as far as sales books, Closing Strong was a really good one. It just taught me different closes that I could use. Anyway, but I got into the habit of just 30 minutes to an hour every day. I was reading something until I felt like I was starting to master the art of selling.
Yeah. And do you still do that today? Do you still kind of focus on personal growth, self-development, investing in yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just recently I've then and I listen to a lot of books. Like that's what seems to be like that's an easy way to learn is just be listening. Whether I'm at the gym working out, I'm always listening to a book or something or reading them. But like recently, I just finished three new books that I've been rereading. That's the other thing is I learned don't just read a book and put it down and get another one. Like master the content of the book, read it over and over and over until you really understand what the people are saying, so that you could teach someone else. So
I think that's a principle that we learn in the gospel. Definitely is like rereading the scriptures. Like you can read it once, but I don't know what the phrase is, but like a man can step into a river and the river will be different, water will be different, but the man will also be different. I don't know if you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you though. Like it's like if you have just a handful of books I think if you mastered 10 books, it'd be better than reading 100. Right?
Yeah.
So
very cool. That's awesome. Well, yeah, kind of take us back. So you were doing pest control. How many years were you doing pest, and then what did you go into after that?
So same cousin. So my cousin's 1 year older than me.
Okay.
And so like anyway, we to this day we still do business together. But anyway, so I did pest control for 2 summers, and then after that, he had an idea where he's like, "Hey, I want to try to do satellite TV door to door," and that had never been done before. And so, like, we went to DirecTV and Dish Network, and we're like, "Hey, we want to sell for you." They're like, "Where's your storefront?" We're like, "We don't have them. We're gonna do it door to door." I'm like, "Nah," and we're like, "No, I promise. We'll be the biggest dealer you've ever seen," you know. And so, anyway, so then. We just started doing that and just trying to learn how to make that work. And then that company became pretty big. And that's how I know like Mike, just because he was actually a competitor of mine, but like we just really became close friends just through life.
So you were the first person to do, you and your cousin were the first ones to do door-to-door satellite
Correct.
TV. Just like walk us through like what is going on in your mind. Like people are probably telling you that you're crazy. Like I mean the businesses told you like it couldn't be done.
Well, DirecTV and Dish were used to a storefront model, and so they were at first refused it. They're like, no, but we're like, no, like promise, we'll like make sales, we'll do this.
What made you believe that you could do it?
Well, I think once you learn how to sell anything, you realize you can sell anything else, right? If the product's good and if it has a good value proposition. So I always look at that like, what's the product? Is it real? Does it offer a real value proposition that people are going to be like, yeah, this is something I really want. And then of course the commissions were good. Like you had to. So the 3 things I look for is how good is the product. How good is the management team of the company that you're going to sell for, and how good is the compensation? The 4th thing is, does it make a difference? Can it actually make the world a better place? But that 4th thing kind of came later on as I could get more picky with what I did, right? Like I'm not so certain that like television makes a great difference in people's lives. However, it can. Entertainment's important and stuff. You know what I mean? But like what I do with doTERRA, I feel like it's making a difference or something like that. So, but I like those 4 things.
Yeah, and I'm gonna write that down, put that in my notebook. And we'll talk about the doTERRA opportunity because that is something that I really am interested by, and I know that it works. And so I'm a big believer in essential oils and the whole holistic space.
Sure.
But okay, so you and your cousin, you start this.
So we did door to door, and then we learned how to sell it. We had to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, you're writing the OG sales manuals for it.
Yes, actually, yep. And so we figured out how to sell it, and that was one thing that my cousin he saw in me was he would always be like, "Hey, can you help me learn how to sell this product?" And I just had a way. I don't know. I just could figure it out.
Yeah.
And then and then what happened is we're like, well, we need to hire people, And I was like, okay. So I went and like recruited some kids that I was going to school with. I'm like, do you want to come sell with us? And I went out and taught them how. And at first, I mean, at first we actually went out and sold it, and then we'd just carry the satellite dish in our car, and then we'd get up on the roof and install it ourselves. And so I would teach them how to sell it and install it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and we actually tried. At first, we thought, well, we'll sell it and we'll have someone else come and install it. But then we're like, but then there's the drop off between the time they say yes and when they install it. So it's like, well, why don't we sell it and install it?
And then commissions are higher too.
And commissions were higher and stuff. So that was the first go.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of interesting, isn't it? And then as the more we did it, we're like, okay. Once you learned how to sell, and we knew we could get quality installers, which also had to be trained. Like none of that existed. Then we were just like, then we could start breaking it up to where we had good installers and good sales guys, good admins, and then if we could do same day installation, then that took away the buyer's remorse. So we just started growing a sales team, and we just kept growing it, and then it became we were the largest dealer for direct and dish, and then
how many accounts were you doing, and what was the size of your guys' company team at this point?
Yeah, so when we got to our largest, it went from door to door to, we also had call centers. And when we transitioned into call centers, because we also had fulfillment, we had a huge installation company that was installing for other companies too. And so then what happened is when we got into the call centers with the fulfillment, we could do all of this and we could service, but we were getting up to 600 sales a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so much so that Dish actually said, stop, we can't. Like, they limited how many we would be able to sell.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What do you even tell the company at that point? Like, no, we're going to keep going, or like bump it up, or you had to cooperate?
We had to cooperate, because they were like, because we were getting too big. And like, anyway, it was really interesting to see how it was all going, but like, it was kind of interesting. It's like the tail was wagging the dog, and they didn't like that because we were so big. And so they limited us, like came in, had people that were like watching us closely and stuff. And also when you're selling that much, a lot of times you get into like quality of sale problems. Yeah. Where some of the sales were good, some of them were crap. But again, I mean, we didn't care. We were just, oh my gosh, let's just sell as many as we can. But Dish, and I think that's why Dish was like, hey, look, we want less sales that are really high quality. So that was like the throttling back. We had to figure out how to like give up some sales to make sure that all the sales were high quality. So we did that. And then that company was big enough that it kind of gave us the opportunity to open up other companies. So we had a parent company, and we had different divisions in there. And this door-to-door marketing, call center, fulfillment, all of this, that was funding everything, all these other ventures that we were getting into. So we started a mortgage company and insurance company. And we just started getting into all kinds of stuff. But it typically what would happen is we would find a product that we like to sell. We would sell it, and then we would find an ancillary product that would support that. And then we'd just start a company around that. And then something would come up. We're like, hey man, we're selling a lot of this. We could, if we were to upsell them to this, then, and it just, the company just kept growing and growing and growing. And anyway, that's kind of how it grew. And at some point through all of that growth and like different changes and things, we started a software company that was like this personal financial management software. And again, I was pretty young, and I was just like, oh, why not? We can do anything. I was listening to all these tapes and books and things that were telling me I could do anything.
So you can do it. You can do it. I believe.
Sure. It's just like anything you can think of, you can do it. I'm like, let's go. I can think of all kinds of things. So then I just started, so we started growing this software company, and I'm not a coder. I didn't understand any of that, but I was like, but I knew that there was a demand, that the public needed something that didn't exist. And so I was like, I want to create this thing. And from a sales perspective, you understand the psychology of the people you're dealing with better than almost anybody. and you're like, but these are the reasons why people need this, and it doesn't exist, so we need to create it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just hired in a bunch of programmers, and we started growing this company. And anyway, and then that company became really big.
Yeah. How old were you when all this? I mean, how
This
long
was all through my 20s and early 30s.
20s, early 30s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like go to business school or anything to help you manage all this? Like, how did you learn all this? And like, how are you able to manage all these different
Same thing.
companies?
It's the same thing as listening. You listen to books if you want to learn something, there's people that have written. Everyone's giving away all of their knowledge all the time.
Yeah.
And so when I was going to college, I quickly was getting frustrated with college because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to work for someone else. I don't need this degree to do so. So I got a degree in political science, but I was like, I got my degree and I was like, sayonara, because I already had a business. And so I was already building that. And then once you learn that if you just embrace education as a lifestyle instead of like
a period of time that you do, like do my education for these 4 years and then I don't have to educate anymore.
Correct. Right. Or that when people say get an education, most people hear that and they say, oh, that means college. That means this particular thing. But actually education's everywhere. I mean, there's unlimited amounts of education and information right now. And, like one of my kids, my oldest, he came to me and was wondering what to do with his career and life and things like that. And I just said, look, you don't have to go down the college path if you don't want to. I said, but you do have to be educated. And so if you're not going to go down the college path, then you need to make education a priority. So read history books, economic books, sales books, business books, be well versed and educated in all things because there's no limit not to, right? So I homeschooled my youngest two kids when they were in high school. And I just sat down with them and said, what do you guys want to learn? What is it that you want to learn? And they're like, well, I was like, and again, I think history is super important. Obviously, this stuff like math and science and those types of things are important. But then they're like, well, we want to learn business. I'm like, great. So I went to the store, got some books by Robert Kiyosaki, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. And that was our curriculum. And we read through those. And then I said, okay, now let's do what it says. Let's start a business. What do you want to sell? What do you want to create? And they created a product. I'm like, okay, now you need to sell the product. So go door to door and sell this. And they did. And in their first couple of hours, they came back with hundreds of dollars of sales. And then I was sat down and I'm like, okay, now look, what you just made in the last hour or two of selling, if you were working at, wherever you were working before for $15 an hour, how long would you have had to work to earn what you just did in the last 2 hours? And they're like, we would have had to work a whole week. I'm like, right. I'm like, so this is why you have to learn how to sell. Even if you don't want to be in sales, you need to learn how to sell because it opens up all kinds of opportunities for you.
That is way cool.
Yeah. So I believe big time in education, but I'm very flexible in how you obtain that.
Yeah. That is awesome. Wow. I want to go to Risenmay private school or homeschool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. The best one was anyway, we studied the Roman Empire. Okay. And then I said, now I want to show you. So I just flew him over to Italy and we started in the bottom of the boot, worked our way all the way up, saw everything from Pompeii to Venice and just ate our way across the country. But I just wanted to show them. I don't want to just teach you, I want to show you.
Yeah. That is really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Got some good ideas for how I want to teach my kids. During those years where you were building businesses, selling businesses, acquiring, you had that crazy growth. Were there any key lessons that God was trying to teach you or that you were forced to learn maybe during the time?
Man, yeah. Some pretty painful lessons, really. Oh man, lots of lessons. But like, we ended up, when 2008 came, the financial crash, that impacted us deeply. It caught up to us about 2010, but like we went from just screaming along to just everything just
dead halt,
almost dead halt. And it was like crazy. And we were letting go of people like crazy and trying to keep things afloat while the economy is crashing around you is really difficult. And so, I mean, look, one of the lessons I learned in business was that you need to understand what the purpose of your business is. Because if you're not careful, your business can exist for its own sake. Meaning, a business will take all of the money and time and investment that you can handle, and it'll consume all of it, unless, because its own survival becomes its reason for being. So you have to be willing to say, actually, the purpose of this business is to make me wealthy. That's its purpose.
Okay.
And so like there were times when the business was crushing it and I wasn't enriching myself personally. I felt rich because I had a big business, but I was just reinvesting constantly, which is a big principle. You need to reinvest. But if you're not actually enriching yourself and setting yourself up to be able to handle everything life's going to come at you, then eventually when that business comes to an end, then you're going, oh my gosh, we made millions and millions of dollars and I didn't make sure that I had my own retirement in place.
Wow.
And so, I mean, not to say I didn't make a lot of money. I'm just saying what could have, we were making tons of money.
Yeah.
But I was just like, just grow the company. And it kept, and if you're not careful, you can just keep growing. All the money that you make can keep going into something that'll grow and grow and grow and grow. But every business has a life cycle.
You kind of get sucked into it. Almost.
Right. Like make sure that you have a plan for enriching yourself.
Very cool. I can definitely see that as a cool principle. So take us after the 2008 financial crisis.
So then, long story short, I hired a CEO to help grow our software company, and I ended up losing the company personally. The company went on to do great things. It actually went up over $1 billion in value and stuff. It became a large company. But as far as but I ended up personally losing my ownership in that company for all kinds of reasons that I don't need to get into. But anyway, but that ended up being a really great thing for me because it made me humble and humble enough to consider doTERRA. And so in 2010, I started using their products to actually just help with like my kids and their health issues that they were dealing with. And then in 2011, I decided I wanted to grow a doTERRA business. And so that's when I started growing that. And then it didn't take too long. I just took everything I learned from door-to-door sales, from owning and running businesses, and I just said, okay, I'm gonna treat this with the same seriousness that I gave a summer sales program or something like that. And if you treat it, I can't say this for every network marketing business because every business is different, but as far as my doTERRA experience, I just treated it like a business, and then it just paid me more than anything I've ever done. So
yeah, I think some people, they look at doTERRA as like it's a cool product, or they're very nonchalant, like using it, like maybe I'll like share it with my friends.
Most
or
people
something.
treat it like a hobby or a very very part-time business or a very distant priority in all of the things that they do. But if you put it on a high priority and you make it serious, then it'll make more money than you know to do it.
Yeah. What are maybe the exponential benefits that we get as business owners for going all in with something versus putting it down low on that priority list?
It's everything. So maybe an example of this, have you ever seen an eclipse in totality? Yeah. So if you few years back when the solar eclipse went over Rexburg, Idaho,
Mhm.
I drove up there and saw it.
Mhm.
An eclipse at 99% is just a very subpar experience.
Mhm.
But an eclipse in 100% in totality is like life altering, life changing, perspective changing experience because you see something you've never seen before.
Mhm.
And it's about being all in. That's true for the gospel. That's true for business. That's true for, I think, a marriage and anything else.
I love that. That was a beautiful example. As you were telling me, my heart sunk. I was like the totality of being involved in an eclipse or just in anything.
Yeah, it's like nothing you've ever seen. You're like, oh my gosh, like who would have thunk that like
the
a
1%.
99% would be a completely different experience than totality, but it is. It's completely different. And so like even when I was doing door to door, going out and doing a summer and you're okay, I'm gonna be maybe a little. Sometimes people think that balance is overrated. Let me just say that.
Work-life balance.
Right. Like seasons of imbalance create great overall balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for example, when I was a missionary for my church, I was completely out of balance.
Where did you serve, by the way?
In Washington, D.C. So, yeah. So like I wasn't dating. I didn't see my family. There was nothing else but God. That's it. It was 100%. Did I have balance in my life? No, not at all.
Yeah.
But that season of imbalance has brought enormous blessings and an overall sense of balance to my life. And I'd say the same thing with like a 4-month summer sales program. It's like, if you're out there and you're like, but I want to make sure, like, it's like the guys that are like, I want to do this and this and this, and then I want to make sure that I have, and it's just like, look, I'm there to do one thing. I'm going to break a sales record. I'm going to make a grundle of cash. I'm going to, you know what I mean? And then when you're in that mode, it's a huge difference. It's like when you have a horse race, if a horse wins by the nose, it was better by a nose, but it made 10 times what the second place horse makes. And that's very similar. Like, it's just, you don't think totality is being all the way in, and it may seem like not a lot, but the difference it makes, because your mind share. How much of your mind is into what you're doing? And if your mind is fragmented into these different areas of life, then it takes away all kind of creativity and focus that really brings magic into your business or life or whatever.
So how do you be all into marriage, all into raising kids, all into growing businesses, and all into your relationship with God, all into health? Like, how do you be all into all of it?
Well, I think that so the way that you experience balance is by figuring out what your priorities are. So if you figure out what fits in the priorities of your life, then everything kind of takes care of itself. So for example, like if God is my number one priority, it doesn't mean that God gets the majority of my time. It just means he gets the first dibs on my time.
Okay.
Does it make sense? So like if I were to take my week or my month or my year or whatever, and I'm planning it out, it's like, what do you plan first? That's your first priority. What do you plan second? That's your second priority. And those things get first priority on your time. And then, and that way, even if you're not, spending all of your time on something, it still gets priority. So then there are seasons like I mentioned my mission, where it was God was my number one priority, but he also had the majority of my time. But like when I was doing business or sales or whatever it was, God was still my number one priority. But he just got the first dibs on my time, and then my time was split up between my other priorities.
That's a very interesting way about breaking down life. It was really cool.
So like when you're in something, do it all the way. Like just unashamedly just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like sometimes when you're out of balance, it's all in on family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's all in on a business thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if your priorities are still in line, then the important things still get done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there's another big focus in your life too.
Yeah, that's genius. Yeah, I have a thing I want to read to you. You talked about breaking sales records. And this is something that our common friend Mike Hammond shared with me. And he was talking about maybe you can walk us through this summer when you were going for this sales record, and you had this affirmation that you kept repeating to yourself.
Yeah.
And then you switched it. Do you want to walk us through that real quick?
He told you about that.
You did.
That's fascinating. Did he tell you what it was?
He gave me the affirmation. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. The original was this: is my name is Seth Risenmay, and I'm my greatest ally.
I set goals and I achieve them because I know I can.
This summer I will sell 650 satellite dishes. Nothing can deter me from hitting this mark. Every day I will follow my daily schedule without fail. Failure is alien to me. Failure is not an option. I will succeed. When I'm selling, I'm completely focused on reaching my daily goal. I always reach my daily goal. I'm not a quitter. I will win. It is not over until I win. My name is Seth Risenmay, and I'm my greatest ally. I set goals and I achieve them because I know I can.
Yeah.
You kept repeating that to yourself, and I don't know, 650 satellite dishes. That's a lot of satellite dishes. But you get to this point of the summer, and just walk us through what switched.
Yeah, so I wrote that affirmation because I was tired of being my own worst enemy. So I noticed that the thing that stopped me from reaching my goals in life and in the past was me. And I was really tired of me being the reason that I wasn't reaching things. Like I had the talent, I had the work ethic, but maybe I just didn't have the discipline in this area or this. And that really bugged me. Mm-hmm. And so in my affirmation, the first thing I put in there was, I'm tired of being my own worst enemy. I'm my greatest ally. Mm-hmm. And so that was the reason I put that in there. And whenever I would read it, I had it on a card and I would read it out loud every day, at least twice daily, but eventually you just memorized it, mm-hmm. So you could just say it. And then I would say it also whenever there was a heightened sense of emotion. So Napoleon Hill says that when you say something with emotion, that it impacts your subconscious mind. And so if I ever, let's say I had a sell and I was feeling really happy and excited, I'd be like, my name is Seth Risenmay. I am my greatest ally. And I set goals and I achieve them because I know I can. That type of thing. And then other times I'd be like, someone slammed the door in my face or something bad would happen. Well, I could still say an affirmation right after because I could use the emotion to bring the message home. And anyway, and so I was doing that, and I was like determined to get to this goal. And then I got to August, which was the last month of the summer, and I was just doing the math, looking at how far away I was, and it was like, oh crap! Like I was gonna have to have my best sales day every single day for the rest of the summer, and I was like, I just don't think I can do this. Like doubt started creeping in and all that, and then and then one day, I was just in I was in the shower actually. I went in there, and that was normally when I'd start my affirmation. Is I'd get up in the morning, walk in the shower, and then I just start, repeating that. And that time, I just kind of habitually started saying it, but this time the words changed. And it still gives me just goosebumps thinking about it. But I was in the shower, and all of a sudden the words were, my name is Seth Risenmay, and God is my greatest ally. He sets goals and I achieve them because he knows I can. And man, right then I remember just like going, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it, And so then I just went out with just massive faith and massive work ethic and just started doing it. And I'll never forget, every day I would be trying to get this. I think I had to get like 9 sales a day. I mean, it was crazy. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna. And I got to the end of the day. It's dark outside. I'm like looking around the neighborhood for a house that has lights on to see if I can like get my last sell of the day. And like a block away, there's this car driving, and it crosses the street, and I just in my mind, actually it wasn't even in my mind. I just said stop, and the car stopped, and they went in reverse, and they like pulled up. They just drove down the block right up next to me, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm selling satellite TV." Like, "Oh, we want one of those." I'm like, "Great," and yeah, it was just one thing after another. It was like something I've never experienced before, and I didn't sell 650. Sold 706, and yeah, so it was just awesome. It was a great experience.
So you had to hit your best day every day
For the rest of the summer, yeah.
in order to get 650.
Uh-huh.
And you sold 706.
Yeah.
And it was because the faith.
Yeah, it's everything. Faith's everything, especially in sales and in business in general, because faith is a creative power, and the thing about faith and okay, the thing about sales is that you don't earn money, you create it. Okay, so like for example, if I were to walk down a street, there's nothing there. There's just potential. And so if I go and make a sale, I've created money, right? Now the installer comes behind me and he earns his paycheck, but he didn't create the money. I did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a difference between like if somebody says, here are the terms of like, you show up and you're going to get paid this much per hour, then you show up and that's not making money, that's earning money. It's exchanging your time or your service for that. But sales is creating money out of nothing. Like you're going and you've got to create it. And in order to create, creation requires faith. So you could put in the same work, you could say the same words, but if you don't believe, it doesn't work.
Wow.
You have to believe.
Wow. That is amazing. I'm blown away. Would you share your testimony with us?
Of what?
Why we're here, where we're going, what's the purpose of life?
Well, I know that there's a God in heaven, and he is more loving and kind than we can comprehend. And he loves all of us so much that it's impossible for us to know and even understand the love he has for us. And the life that he's given us is full. It's so perfect. It's tailor-made to everyone. And it's full of the lessons that he has in store for us, because every life experience is going to teach us something. And it's all done out of mercy. And he's not an angry God. He's not a wrathful or vengeful God. He's extremely merciful. His mercy is more than I can express. The other day, let me give you an example. My son is serving a mission right now. And I was praying to God, and I was like almost begging him to help my son on his mission with what he was dealing with. And his response to me was, "You're praying to me as if I wouldn't do those things already. Like, do you not think that I am as aware or more of his needs than you?" And I was like, "Well, of course you are. Do you not believe that I love him more than you do?" "No, you do." Then he said, "Then pray again with that understanding." And all I could do was just thank him for the experience that he was giving my son, like that it was the perfect experience for him. And that everything that my son needed was already happening because our Father in heaven is a loving Father and kind. And everything he does is for our benefit. Everything we go through is for our benefit and learning. And he doesn't condemn us, but he's trying to save us. He's pursuing us all the time. He's relentless in his pursuit, and and the motivation for that is his love for us. And which is why he sent his son Jesus. And if we give our lives to Christ and to his work of basically teaching and letting everyone know how loved they are and all of the blessings that are here for us, that it's all a gift. And so my testimony is that God is real. He's an extremely loving Father. His son Jesus is necessary and loves us just as much. And if you give your life to them, then that they will make more of you than like I said in that affirmation, they're our greatest ally. And they set goals for us, and we achieve them because not only do they know that we can, they know what we'll become as a result of all of that's in place for us. And so that's the foundation of everything I believe. Everything else grows on those things. I could say that because I know that God is real and that Jesus is his son and that they have a kingdom on this earth. The kingdom is right here. It's growing, and we get a chance to be a part of that kingdom. And he lets us participate in building his kingdom for our benefit.
For our joy.
Yeah. I mean, it's with us in mind. It's the most loving, merciful, kind, compassionate, powerful, wise God that we can't even understand. But if we could, it's more than we know. And that's what I keep learning more and more about God, is that he's better than I can imagine. And so I just need to keep that in mind. But anyway.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't know, you had any last words for any of the guys? I mean, the summer season is starting right now. When a lot of guys hear this, it'll be the first couple weeks of the summer. Going into the summer and being those first couple weeks, what advice would you give yourself, or would you give any of those guys?
Well, know what you want.
Okay.
Get really clear on what you're trying to achieve.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Get really clear on why it's important to you. Like your why is what's going to drive you. So why, right? What, why, when, and how, right? Those are the things I always put in place first. What do you want? Why do you want it? By when are you going to get it? And how are you going to do it? Be really concrete, solid in your what and your why. The when and the how has flexibility in it. So you can change, your plans can change as you learn more, but keep your what where it needs to be. Find a daily schedule. A schedule that is like, okay, when I know what I want, then what is the schedule I need to follow to get that? And then be extraordinarily disciplined in that schedule. Recognize the importance of the mind. When it comes to sales, the mind is everything. So get your mind right every day. Invest in getting your mind right. So when I was doing sales, I did an hour of study every morning. It was a half hour of spiritual study in the scriptures, and it was a half hour of study in my books, reading sales books or whatever books that we're going to, business, success, success books in general. So I spend an hour of mental prep a day because you're going to go out there and you're going to have 10 hours on the doors. with a lot of rejection.
Mhm.
And so if you didn't take the time to fortify your mind,
Mhm.
then you're just gonna get your lunch handed to you, and then you end up quitting or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so figure out what your schedule is, make sure that there's mental preparation in it,
Mhm.
and then believe. You know, if you know what you want and it's important to you, then it is important to God.
Mm.
And the goals that are set for you are super important. Getting the goal is important, but who you become in achieving the goal is the gift.
Mm.
That's the real gift.
Wow.
So if you okay, I hit that goal, and the money I made from that has come and gone years ago, but who I became still remains.
Yeah.
And so the journey is the gift.
Mhm.
Like if you embrace that, like then you just got to be willing to pay the price. Sometimes when you're pursuing a goal, you can choose the destination or the path, but you can't choose both.
Mm.
So sometimes people go, I want the path to look like this.
Mm.
Okay, that's fine, but you're going to get where that path leads.
Yeah.
But if you choose the destination, then you're choosing whatever journey that destination requires.
Yeah.
But just know that the journey is the gift.
Mhm.
So just get real clear on not what you want it to look like, but what you actually want, and then figuring out what that looks like in the process.
That's way cool. I like that. Awesome.
Cool.
Any last words?
No, I think that's it. Ryan.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.